Did you know mental health is universal? But today's guest is Brittany. She, she's here to tell us about her story and how she overcame adversities and how she transformation within her life. Get into this episode. Ms. Brittany, welcome to the Advocacy podcast.
Hello.
How you doing? How you doing?
Doing great. I'm so glad and grateful to be here today with you. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Happy to have you on. We met and we and all of them were doing. Here's your story of where you came from and to now to the space of. It's very, very passionate about mental health, man. I'm very, very keen on someone like you to share. So, and can you tell us a little bit about even get to even like this in this profession?
Well, it's just crazy how God takes you on so many different journeys in life. Originally, like I tell everybody when I tell my story, when I went to, I graduated from the University of North Texas, Mean Green. And like I tell everybody, I actually went to school for business. And, also when I tell my story, I tell people if you have a vision or you want to do something in life, don't let anyone change your mindset. Because at one point I wanted to be an elementary teacher. And somebody was like, no, you don't want to do that. And so I changed my major. That's how I ended up with business. But then after working in corporate America, God took me on that journey to actually become a teacher. I got my alternative cert, and I saw things differently. Working with middle schoolers, I saw day one that they needed my help beyond what I could offer as a teacher. And so that led me to school counseling. But then I realized as a school counselor, you don't get to counsel. So that's what led me on the journey of mental health, especially during COVID. And just knowing everything that people were dealing with mentally, I was like, wow, this is big. Like, people really need help.
Most definitely. I remember during when my son was at home, they were getting to the transition of that it like really like bothered him, the social engagement that he normally had. And he like some of the teachers were struggling to keep the kids' attention and classwork, and so it's amazing that you read that and saw that it needs to be something of that sort.
Yes.
So your process, and I know that you're challenging, and that's what drew me into you in regards to what you've been through youth, and to find that now you're serving that graphic. A bit about, I was like, what was it like for you growing up?
Ooh, for me growing up, it was a lot. I dealt with a lot of mental and physical abuse. It was a lot. A lot of times, people would, actually I'm from Cedar Hill in Texas. So, a lot of people think that because you grew up in the suburbs, your life is just kind of things are handed to you on a platter. But that wasn't the reality for me. I had to, be that sibling that had to take care of my younger siblings. And it was just a lot. But for me, when I look back at my childhood, it was a lot of dealing with mental and physical abuse. I didn't find out who my biological father was. I knew about him when I was like 12, 13, but I didn't get to meet him until like my sophomore, well, actually it was my junior year in high school. And I'll never forget the day when I found out about him. I was shocked because I had my father that raised me, my stepfather, but I found out at church. And I remember my cousin, I said something about like, that's my dad. And she was like, girl, that's not your daddy. And I'm like, and, you're torn at that point because you're like, okay, I appreciate, him taking on that role, being my father, but I still deserve the right to know who my father is. And I'll never forget asking my mom, and of course, she didn't tell me the truth. And so I went and did my own research.
Mm-hmm.
And, you just, in life, you just go through so many different challenges. And, I was working a job when I was in high school. And I remember there was a young lady, she said, hey, now I know the story on the back end, but she said, hey, she was telling my biological dad, she said, there's a girl there. She looks kind of like us. I think that might be our sister. And come to find out, she was right. And it was crazy that my biological dad literally lived right down the street
Oh
from where
my
I grew
God.
up from, but never crossed paths, nothing ever. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. Growing up and being right down the street from your own, family.
So yeah, how did that impact your after you found that out? And I want to follow up and ask, how did that even like impact your like identity in regards to like this down, you know, in proximity? How did it impact
It impacts you in so many different ways. But I tell him to this day, I understood the situation. He didn't have the ability to be able to be like, to really fight for me like I wish he would have. But you do encounter identity crisis because you're like, okay, all this time I thought this was my father and it's not. And your mind just spirals. You're like, okay, I would love to know, do I have any siblings? Or it's just so much. Am I like him? You wonder, like when you're growing up,
you? Right.
like what parts of me is my father, what parts of me is my mom, and just different things.
Wow. As to your story, I could just think about, with and would have been devastated to kind of miss out on that as I see like or don't grow that. And there's lots of like single moms out here in this world. Now,
Mhm.
what I'm thinking about, some of these big highlight moments in someone's life, like Sweet 16, like some birthdays, graduating school, all of these, like you want to like celebrate your parents and things like that. Did any of that impact you as a kid growing up, and did you even give that?
Man, I would say I feel like I missed out on a lot because once my biological mom found out that I knew, or my mom, she found out I knew about my biological dad, she took me out of high school. So I didn't
Mm,
get a chance to graduate with my class, and a lot of them
wow,
was wondering like, what happened? And I would have been at the top 10% of my class because academics we didn't play that growing up, and so it
right.
was devastating because she found out I was talking to him or and sneaking to call him on the phone once I had his information, and so she took me out of school. And I just feel like I missed out on so many, just different opportunities, that you get to encounter when you graduate from high school, or like you said, having those big moments that you can have with both of your parents.
So some kids growing up made some form of like resentment, when you're going through that, right? Especially
Yeah.
when you become much more of an adult. You experience, like, oh, did you use either culture? Did you use that as to like fire you up to like pursue in life?
For me, I did have some resentment because I feel like at the end of the day, as an adult, you should take some responsibility.
Mhm.
It shouldn't be, why am I having to suffer for the things that I should already know? But then what it did, it made
Right.
me realize that, like with my own daughter and my own children, is to make sure that no matter what happens, that they can always have that relationship with their fathers. And so I don't want to be the one to get in the middle of that. And if there's something that's in between or a difference that I have with their fathers, for us to be able to either work that out or for my children to see that on their own and make their own decision. That's not my job to make that decision to keep them away. So for me, I use it as fuel for the fire to say, okay, I'm going to push forward, not going to allow these situations to stop me from being great and be able to help others. And I think that's what helped me help other students in the classroom when I was working with middle school students, and just being able to know, like, okay, know your home life might not be the best. We don't get to pick our parents and our family,
That's
but being
true.
able to push through, we have control over what we do have control in pushing forward.
Speaking of push through, so you've been able to profession, right? After you've seen what it's like to be like that. Can you tell us a little about your business going now and how you're making an impact?
Yes, well, actually, it was crazy because I started off with one business name. And really,
Uh-huh.
in my season a month ago, I was like, Lord, I want everything to be in alignment. And so from there, I ended up changing everything to Empower You, Crown Up, because it has a much powerful message,
Hmm.
where we know that we can empower our youth, and not just the youth, but adults as well. And so with my book, it's been a spinoff. The title of my book is Stop the Drama, Stop Comparing, Focus on You. But it's become a spinoff to really help parents and really allowing people to have that self care and take the time to fill up their cup first. So that way they can be all that they can be to their families, and just really know how they can communicate, have that sisterhood with each other. And for our youth, understanding the power of their crown, understanding their self worth. And it's just been really phenomenal, and just being able to help our youth understand themselves, because the music they have is not the best. It's not very influential. And I realized that they don't have solid, families to show them, like, this is how you should act or carry yourself as a young lady. And so it's really been phenomenal to really just say, hey, moms, come on this self care retreat, get your life together, which has been amazing for our entrepreneurs and everyone, to remove them from their environment and make them take their self care personal and serious. And just really for our teens and youth to be able to know their worth, because it starts when they're young.
No doubt. No. Speaking of your book, if you can tell us a little bit of your book, what reader, when they pick up your book, learn from your book, and where can they find your book as well?
Well, with my book, Stop the Drama, Stop Comparing, Focus on You, this book is about empowering our youth. When I wrote this book, it was inspired from me being in the classroom and working with teens, predominantly teen girls, and having a daughter of my own. I feel like if I had never gone into the classroom, I would not have been able to handle the challenges with my own children. But it just really gave me a different outlook to know that our children need a solid foundation. And so this book is about empowering, getting them ready for the real world. As we know in life, I wish I would have had someone tell me, hey, do this, do that, or be aware of this, or be mindful of getting connected to these types of people. And so this book is about helping, our youth to really just say, hey, let me make some solid decisions, and let me have a solid foundation in life.
Let me know. I think about some of the things that, and I think about like direction where my life was going, and it was not until I got into much more structured and much more leadership and people around me that like truly cared about me, that even helped me my life. So I got into the program because I could draw and I could paint. Luckily, like people being us in that space, and then once I got into football, I had a really good like care of me, like doing the right things in school and stuff like that. So for you to be able to put out, a book where anyone could pick up, maybe, or parent could pick it up and start giving them tips and some guidance, I think is truly phenomenal. I want to ask you now something about being a parent, because you've obviously been through stuff. Now you're not pouring into your own kids. What is it like now to be a mom and now to be a man? And you also so you got to deal with personalities or business manager.
Honestly, the lines get blurred so much. And that's what led me to really doing the self-care retreats. Because, when you get in business mindset, you're like, just go full force. But then things happen, life happens, especially having four children, is always something going on, right? Somebody needs
Mhm.
something, somebody, something. But I will say this, after getting into the mental health field, it has helped me to have better conversations, have more patience with my own children, and just in working and dealing with people, it helps me see different. And it's like removing the blinders off. And it allows me to realize, okay, you have some things that you're dealing with your inner child. It's just attacking people, but it helps you realize, like, okay, now I'm gonna look at this differently from an aspect of where I can help you be better. And so I just feel like now it has me in a place of being more patient with people and understanding that adults are really big kids, dealing with that inner child inside of them. And it helps me to be able to communicate better with people. Um, I think it's good and bad though, because you see everything once you become that mental health therapist. Now you're like, that's what's going on.
So let me ask you this: for our listeners that's listening, right, and they struggling, there's some parenting things, some mental health issues, and things like that, or they may have a story to yours. What are some practical steps or something that you did to your journey?
Honestly, it started with my faith because I realized I had to really forgive. I had to forgive and let some things go because I realized I couldn't move forward just holding on to that anchor. And what helped me realize is that people that did you wrong, they sleep good at night. You're the one trying to figure this thing out, and they not. And so I had to understand that forgiveness is for me. So really diving into my faith. Now more ever than ever, just really having that positive mindset, being intentional about how I start my day. And that's why when people go to my website, they're able to download my checklist on 11 ways on how to keep a positive mindset. And so it just gives you 11 tips. It's your checklist, 11 ways that you can keep a positive mindset at focusyoursuccess.com. And I'm really big on your mindset because now, after I've met so many people and gotten connected to the right resources, that's what they tell you. They had to be intentional, get up early, start their day off right, meditate, spend time with God, and really truly be intentional about what they want to take care of or happen in their day. And so that has really helped me a lot. And just in saying, okay, I don't want, just being intentional on what I don't want in my life. I'm all
Mm-hmm.
about peace, no drama. And so if it's not serving me or it's not adding to the peace, I don't want it. And so really just being intentional on who I have in my corner, who I have in my space, and just really just being intentional with the mindset. I think the mindset is the biggest thing, being mindful of what you listen to and just speaking at words of affirmation, because I realize that we have to build ourselves up. And I tell my clients all the time, if someone tells you you're beautiful, you're not going to believe it until you believe it. And so it starts with you telling yourself that you are worthy to have these different
Yes.
things in life and just pushing yourself. And that's what's really helped me, is being able to really push through and have that mindset.
Well, definitely everybody's born to your without
That's right.
doubt. So what you said is profound to me. Repeating it and saying it, and it tests towards and belief. And it sounds like it's strong to where you're at now today in life. Talk to our audience and just share with them maybe some of the things that you've been with and like how God has gotten you through some of those situations. Some of this podcast and their own, and they could be struggling with something. Can you share a little bit of testimony of that and He delivered you in transformation?
Oh, it was so much, but I hearing you talk when you're saying that, what came to my mind was when I was in high school. There was a point where I honestly wanted to take my life. I did. And so it kind of, leads to my role now in helping our youth, being a counselor. When people make statements or say they want to take their life or hurt somebody or somebody's hurting them, I don't take it lightly at all, because
Mm-hmm.
you never know. You never know. And so for myself, when I was in high school, I'll never forget, holding the knife, really about to go through with it. And I will never, and God puts you in certain situations the way He does for a reason. Like literally the next day, we were taking my dad to work. He was a truck driver. And on the radio, the sermon, the pastor was talking about, people wanting to take their life. And he said, first of all, that's selfish of you. How can you, first of all, take something that you didn't give yourself? You don't have that right. And he talked about how, God really has a purpose for each and every one of us. We might not see it right now, but if we keep living and we just keep on this journey of life, God will lead us and direct us to our passion. And so I've even realized that with my business, starting out, I thought honestly I was just going to be, helping youth and just doing mental health. But God's shown me so many ways that I can help women. And, like matter of fact, Sunday I was talking about the power of the crown and allowing women to really understand the importance of affirming themselves and just taking time to help lift each other up. We live in a community where we gotta do different from what we see on TV. Lift each
Right.
other up. And so through that journey growing up, I'm so glad I didn't, try to take my life, most definitely. But I feel like the reality of it is we've all been there at some point in our life where things we just don't see the end. And if we keep living and we keep living life and we keep going, we will get there and we'll find our own true happiness. But also understanding that happiness is from within. No one, no thing can make you happy. It's you finding your own happiness within.
Thank you for that, Brittany. Something just popped into my head. You're the only person that I'm talking to that is fully qualified to help a lot of kids, right? And this in this stage of either comparison or in this world of social media, and it's 2001 when I was doing the research. Social media has led to some signs pointing to depression, suicide. For listening right now, can you just talk a little about when clients come to you prescribe place? That with kids, right? So I just wanted to know. You probably hear this all the time, bro. There's some things that's listening right now could take back, take away podcast, and not even know what's going on.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would say this as a parent, take them serious if they're saying, things like they want to kill themselves or hurt themselves. Because I talk to a lot of parents who are like, oh, they just playing. Oh, they just use that language. Well, if they are just using that language, we have to redirect the type of language that they are saying, because our words have power. And a lot of times people don't understand or realize that, you keep saying something, like I tell people all the time, if you keep saying you're going to have a bad day, then you're going to have a bad day. So it starts with you helping your child redirect their language, be mindful of what they're watching, and sit down and have conversations. Because with social media, we're going, going, going. Now, everyone's having to work multiple jobs just to keep their homes afloat. And so we really have to start taking the time out to sit down and actually communicate and talk to each other. I know a lot of parents are like, okay, well, they won't put the phone down. Well, you have to start making your child do it. Even if it's 30 minutes, while you have dinner. We have a rule. I'm like, no phones at the table. You want to get attitude? Okay, well, then you're not going to have your phone later on. So then everybody's like, oh, Mom, how was your day? But you got to find ways to get our kids to talk and just really connect with your children, because their day is hard too. It's not like back in the day, where it was like, you can't have a bad day, you can't say anything, it's too challenging for you. But we have to understand our youth, they're dealing with so much with social media, constantly comparing themselves to other people. And it's just something that just happens second nature. On top of knowing that now when something happens, it's not like it's just recorded. I mean, that's the end of it, like back in the day. Now it's recorded, it's posted, they have to relive it. Other students are replaying it over and over. They're in class, that fight happened, it could have happened a month ago, and they're still like, you lost. And so it's bad. And we have to really acknowledge that this is the time that we are in with our children, but having that open communication where they can come and they can talk to you, and you as a parent taking the time to share some things that you might have gone through, and just letting them know that they're not alone on this journey. And just being mindful, because our kids, There's, with human trafficking, that's a whole nother thing. They don't even know who they're friends with. So we've got to start making sure, normalizing, checking our children's phones, checking their social media, knowing who their friends are, meeting the parents. We got to start doing
Yeah.
that. Yes.
So since I've been doing this stories, and some of the days are good days, and some of it's that I love in regard to hearing people's advice to help. It's like when you're helping, you're hearing it, and hearing the stories. How do you manage your good be able to work? How do you maintain your mental health when you're doing things like that?
Well, for me, I've had to start doing a check and balance because when things are good, I don't know if y'all remember, how you hear about the storms in your life. They say either you're getting ready to go into a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're in the storm. And so when you're not in the storm, you're easy tracking along, you're helping people. But when you're in the middle of the storm, I've found that it's just hard. It is so hard because this person is coming to you. They're coming to me for help. And my job is to help them. And so I've had to learn that I've got to set some balances in place for myself to make sure that I am taking care of me. I'm making sure that I, exercise and just do things that I need to fill up my cup first. So that way I can pour others' cups. Because when you're running on E, it's hard. It's hard to be a mother. It's hard to be a counselor. It's hard to do anything that you need to do. And so for me, I had to really start checking with myself because in this field of helping people, you're always like, yes, I can do it. I can do it, overextending yourself. And then when you're running low, you feel like no one's there to pick you up off the ground.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you can keep an intro. Can you share a story of how maybe someone came to you and impact that in some nice.
Oh, yes. Well, definitely at my speaking this weekend at Sisterhood, just amazing how women came up to me afterwards and shared their stories of how they have to be intentional with their mindset and just setting the tone, taking care of themselves. Because a lot of those women were saying they were overextending themselves. Some women shared that because of me, they were able to break away from their own personal relationships because we talked about repeating the cycle. At some point, the cycle has to stop. And it's not until you realize that you're in that cycle and it's going to keep
Yeah,
repeating. And so it was just really nice to hear the women come and share, whether it was in front of everyone in the circle or privately, of how they received their courage to take the next step, to say, you know what, I'm not going to keep repeating this cycle. Or to say, you know what, because of you, now I am going to be intentional with the people that I allow into my circle, because people will drain you if you allow them. And so we talked a lot about how, hey, if you're that person that's there for everybody, but when you need help, who's there for you? And a lot of women shared that no one shows up when they need it the most. And so it's just being intentional about who you pour into. And I hate to tell people to pour into those who pour into them, but I also tell people to use discernment. So that way you'll know who is worth your time and your energy.
yeah. One of the biggest things that I learned when I was on my growth journey, and and one of my coaches, he said, "Be skeptical," and I did that, and and what that did was it helped me with what I was doing in my life, when like decision, direction, and destination. And the big thing that I took away, you said, is making sure your time is either valuable and quality with you or with the right people that's into it as much as you're pouring into them. But setting the tone, I love that. I really like that. Like once you set the tone and people understand like what your standards are, I mean, so I really like that.
Yes.
So if we wrap up and get out of here, you have a wealth of knowledge. You've been through a lot of childhood instances, stuff like that, right? Can you share with us some practical life lessons that our listeners could take away and start taking action in their lives now today?
Well, definitely, I tell people to choose you first. What I have learned on this journey of life is that we can bend our boundaries and things that we desire to compromise for others. But at the end of the day, we leave ourselves not happy. And so this part right here is emotional because I'm still dealing with this now, but it's really about us really setting our boundaries, knowing what our boundaries are, and choosing you first. Because there are some things that have happened in my life, and I realized those people, they chose themselves. And here I was compromising me without, making sure that I was happy. And so we've got to start normalizing choosing us, filling our cup up first, surrounding ourselves with people who bring us life, who bring us joy, but also making sure that your faith is so strong that no one can knock you off your course. And so, I'm learning more and more, like I tell my own clients, to say no. It's okay to say no. You don't have to offer anyone an explanation, because at the end of the day, people don't even care about you telling them no. I had to run here. I got to do this. I got to do this for my kids. They're like, oh, whatever. She said no. And so it's okay to say no. And so what I've learned throughout my journey is it's okay to say no. Stand up for yourself. Set your boundaries, and also understanding that your feelings are valid. I've been around a lot of people who would try to make you feel some type of way for having your feelings. And the reality of it is you know what you see, you know what you saw. And if you have these feelings, knowing that you are valid and feeling the way that you feel, and going from there.
Thank you for sharing those lessons. So, what's next for you? You've accomplished. What's on the horizon for you?
For me, is really solidifying my self-care retreats. I'm working on some exciting things. Like I just got a workbook that just got released on mental inner healing, and I'm just excited about it, that's going to turn into a whole big thing for women and our teens to be able to do on these self-care retreats. And I'm also working with partnering with different ladies who are going to do canvases and make it to where women can buy the workbook and have their own little paint and sip, and it's just going to be really nice. So I'm just
Oh, that's
excited.
dope.
Yes.
That's
So we've been working on a lot of things to really just stand out, because when it comes to mental health, I know more people are talking about it, but it's still a little stigma to it. And so if you can be in the privacy of your own home, get with your girls, y'all work through the workbook, inner healing, allow me to zoom in to, make sure you guys are on the right track. Do you have your fun? How they can have their music, they're sipping, and their paint. It's just gonna be really nice. And so we're excited. We're getting some things together for Black Friday for that. Really trying to take this mental health to the next level where people are prioritizing their mental health and knowing that it's okay if you have a bad day or a bad moment, but to change your thought process so you can be better.
Man, I love it. As we get ready to step into the new year, so many people is looking for a transformation. Know that you're finding a solution that's going to help women, help kids. Some men might even want to jump on that.
Yes, that's the
You
plan.
know, so I'm excited. Congratulations on all of your. If there's a way for folks to get in contact with you, how could they?
So they can email me at imw@focusyoursuccess.com, or they could just go straight to my website. Once they download the checklist, it'll allow them to put in their information as well from there.
Absolutely. Well, do you have any last word for our audience?
My last words is, live your life, be happy. Don't make anyone make you feel any type of way, because you are choosing you first.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you like this episode, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you share it with a comment. Until next time, God bless.
Can't complain at all, Couple dollars in my pocket, no income and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.